and salutations, my dearest friends. My name is Samantha, and today I'm going to be doing a bunch of book recommendations for fantasy romances. Hello, how are you? Welcome or welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to Trope Week. If you don't know what Trope Week is, it's a series I do on my channel where for a whole week I take a specific romance book trope and I do a bunch of recommendations every single day for a whole week. It's October and spooky season. I wanted to do another Trope Week filled with paranormal and fantasy romance recommendations, so I'm going to be doing a video every single day this week. Today is my fantasy romance video, and this is a collab with Crystal from CrystalBookishLife. I adore Crystal. One of my favorite people ever. I love watching her reading vlogs. Her enthusiasm and her just love for the genre always makes me so happy whenever I watch her vlogs, and she has the best recommendations, so go check her out. Of course, I had to wear my Romantasy Reader shirt. This shirt is from Hello Lovely. Never really considered myself a fantasy girly. I'm gonna be honest, guys, I'm a little dumb. I'm a little dumb sometimes, and sometimes the world building and the names and the factions and the magic systems, it could be a lot. It could be a lot sometimes when it comes to fantasy romances. So to be honest, I was a little intimidated by the genre, but recently I've been reading so many that I absolutely loved. So the first book I want to talk about was a recommendation from my best friend Desiree over at Desiree Alicia or Genki Reader on Instagram. That is A Strange and Stubborn Endurance by Foz Meadows. This one is a male slow burn fantasy romance. One of our heroes is the second or third born son, so he never expects to inherit the title and all the responsibilities that come with it. Family is not that accepting, so he hasn't come out to them yet. So he comes back home and his father tells him that he is going to be getting married. His family set up an arranged marriage to a neighborhood kingdom so that they could have peace between the kingdoms. He's kind of freaking out because he's supposed to marry one of the princesses, but he is gay. The other kingdom does end up finding out, and they end up switching the marriage contract so that he marries one of the princes. Everyone is happy with the marriage, and when he gets there, there is people attempting to kill him. There are people attempting to kill his friends. A little bit of a mystery plot, and it follows the romance. This one is really cute. It's truly a slow burn friends lovers romance. The connection between the characters is just so adorable. The way they support each other. I loved the gradual build of that friends to lovers aspect. That's one of my favorite tropes. I will say just check the trigger warnings before reading this book, because this does have trigger warnings for both assault and self-harm. Both of our heroes in this book are so strong, and the writing is so beautiful, and I highly recommend this book. When it comes to fantasy and paranormal romances, one of my favorite authors is Tessa Hale. Tessa Hale writes both fantasy and paranormal romances, and they're usually why choose or reverse harem, which you guys know is my favorite trope. I pretty much her entire backlist and given almost all of her books 4 or 5 stars, but the one I want to talk about in this video is The Lost Elemental. This is the first in a series. So in this series, there's a magic system where certain people are tied to different elements like earth, fire, wind, water. Every year, right when they graduate high school, they are tested to see if they have any elemental magic, and then they are sent to a specific university so they could learn how to control their powers and it doesn't become dangerous. So our heroine is lining up to get tested to see if she has any elemental magic. For the most part, they had been told that elemental magic runs in families and in bloodlines, and her parents don't have any magic. So she goes up there not expecting anything. Of course, she has a ton of magic. She gets sent to this university to learn how to control her newfound magic and ends up having connection with 4 different guys, and they are the princes of each elemental kingdom. I think there's 3 books in the series total. I listened to the audiobook for every single one. I just love Tessa Hale's writing style because it's very fast paced and keeps me interested the entire series. This is a series that you have to read in order because there's a cliffhanger on every single book until you get to the end. So you do have to read the series in order, but like I said, it's very fast paced and I pretty much love all of her books. Next one that I absolutely loved is Cursed Cocktails. This was a recommendation from Tiffany from Tiff Talks Pages, and this is the definition of a cozy fantasy romance. I don't know if it's the fall time, but I am just loving cozy fantasy books with a little bit of romance, kind of low stakes, and this book is all of that. This is another male slow burn romance, and it follows our hero Roran, who used to be a part of the royal guard. He has blood magic, which makes him very powerful in defeating all of the dark creatures that attack the kingdoms, and he has spent 20+ years defending the kingdom. Using blood magic takes a huge toll on his body, and he can no longer fight, so he decides that he's going to retire. And his parents died when he was very young, and the only thing that he has of his father's is this leather-bound journal of his father's recipes and cocktails. His father's dream was to have a restaurant specializing in these unique cocktails, and each drink kind of showed all of the places that he had traveled to and all of the ingredients he has found. So moving to a new kingdom, that's where he meets our hero, who is a bartender, and together they decide to open up a new bar called Cursed and Cocktails. Oh my gosh, I just loved every part of this book. I don't even drink, and all of the recipes, all of the cocktails sounded delicious. I was reading this book, I had mocktails and fizzy drinks and like all of the fall treats because it's such a vibe. It's low angst, but at the end of the book, I was just crying because I just loved our characters so much and the vibe of this book, so I highly recommend it. Of course, if we're talking about cozy fantasy books, we have to talk about Legends and Lattes, which is very similar to Cursed Cocktails. This is another low stakes fantasy that follows an orc who was also a warrior but decides to retire from that life and open a coffee shop. It is just cozy and wholesome and like a warm hug. This one got really, really popular on TikTok, and for very good reason. It's the perfect fall read. So this next book I literally just finished yesterday, and it's making this list because I loved it instantly. Like, I immediately knew that this was going to be one of my favorite fantasy books, and it's called Lacuna by N.R. Walker. This one also follows kingdoms that are tied to different elements. So you have a kingdom from the mountains, the sea, the deserts, and the forest. There's one ruler for each kingdom, and they were basically destined to rule at birth. They were born, they were given a birthmark that is tied to their kingdom, and that is how people knew that that was going to be their next ruler. Peace among the kingdoms, but there is a prophecy that on their 25th birthdays, there is going to be a solar eclipse, and they will all have to meet and kind of like battle it out, if you will. All trained for this, they've all prepared for this, but once they get there, not everything is as it seems. There's a lot of secrets in the kingdom that they have to figure out what's going on. It's another male-male romance, and when our two heroes finally meet, they are bonded by their marks. Something with their marks and their magic that is constantly tying them to one another, and it is so romantic. A little bit of an enemies to lovers vibe at first, but I just love the way our two heroes are like obsessed with each other in this book. Just, ugh. If you like soulmate, fated mate energy, this is the book for you. The next book that I want to talk about is Hearstone by L. Catherine Wright. This is a dragon romance and a Pride and Prejudice romance. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Don't hate me. Don't hate me. I've never read Pride and Prejudice. I've never seen Pride and Prejudice. Yeah, I know. I am aware of like the Darcy hand flex, but that's about it. So I couldn't really tell you if this was a good Pride and Prejudice retelling, but I can tell you it's a good dragon fantasy romance. I know, I'm ashamed. Okay guys, I will go watch Pride and Prejudice after this video, but honestly I did really love this book. So in this one, our heroine's town is being attacked by griffins, a bunch of other creatures that are attacking their town and killing everyone. That is how she meets our hero. Our hero is sworn to protect the kingdoms because he is a dragon rider. It comes to her kingdom to defeat the griffins, and it follows their slow burn romance. This one, I would say it is more of a fantasy book with some romantic elements because it is pretty slow burn and the magic system takes up more of the book than the romance does. I still really liked it. I listened to the audiobook and I think it is a good one to check out. Okay, we cannot talk about dragon fantasy romances and not mention Fourth Wing. You guys, I can't. I have to add Fourth Wing in this video, even though everyone already knows about it. Everybody loves it. This book, people have different professions to serve the kingdom, and our heroine grew up her entire life thinking she was going to be a scribe. Her mother is a general and ends up forcing her to become a writer, which is a pretty dangerous profession. Pass all of these trials and bond with a dragon and swear to protect their kingdom. Her mother is a general and has made a lot of enemies, so when she gets there, a lot of people are gunning after her, including one of our heroes. This is a love triangle, also enemies to lovers vibe. I feel like I don't really have to explain this one because it is so popular. I do have a reading vlog where both me and my dad read the book and loved it, so I will leave it down below. A lot of the books that I talked about were slow burn fantasy romances, but this next one has a lot of steam and focuses more on the romance, and that is written by Catherine Moon. Catherine Moon is one of my favorite authors. I've read pretty much their entire backlist and loved all of those books. I just think the magic system in this book is so freaking cool. It's the first in a series. You do have to read it in order. So our heroine ends up working for a magical college. She becomes a librarian for this magical college that is filled with witches and warlocks. Heroine doesn't have any magic, or so she thinks. She has magic. Of course she has magic, and it's actually so freaking cool what her magic is. I'm not going to spoil it for you guys, but it's so cool. Anyway, so she starts working for this library and catching the eye of 3 professors who want her to join their coven. It is a poly romance. Our 3 heroes are professors at the school and are in an existing relationship, and they want the heroine to join them and complete their coven. This is such a well-balanced poly romance. You get multiple point of views. I feel like all of the relationships individually are really strong as well as all together. Plot is really interesting as well. There are murders and dark magic happening in the school, school and they need to find out who is doing it. Each book in the series is about 200 pages, so they are very quick reads and I highly recommend them. Bookshelves are a little bit of a mess right now, which is why I'm not holding each individual book, so I would just pop them on the screen for you guys, but I do have some of these books physically. The next one I want to talk about is Anastasia by Sophie Lark. Again, I feel like I broken record by saying these are my favorite authors, but they truly are. Sophie Lark is my girl. Like, I love all of her books. I have tattoos because of her books, and Anastasia is no exception. It's fabulous. This is a dark fantasy romance that is an Anastasia retelling. The book is pretty lengthy because it follows our heroine from a young child all the way into adulthood, and it's not only focusing on the romance. If you like magic systems and political intrigue, then this would be the book to check out. This next one has been one of my favorites for a really long time, and that is Radiance by Draven. It's another friends lovers romance. Both our hero and our heroine come from royal families, but neither of them are expected to inherit the titles because they are second or third born. They end up getting set up in an arranged marriage to provide peace between their kingdoms. There is a lot of political intrigue in this book. Come from completely different kingdoms. Our heroine is more human. Our hero is from like a warrior species. The thing about them is different, from their food to their culture to the clothes. Literally everything. When they first meet, they're not even attracted to each other, so they really decide to make the best of their situation and become friends. So it is a friends lovers romance. The respect they have for each other is so beautifully written, and they just gradually fall in love with each other while they are both navigating the politics of both of their kingdoms. Next up is Cemetery Boys, and this is a YA fantasy romance. So this book follows Yadriel, who is trans, and his family really doesn't understand or accept what that means. The magic system in his family is tied to gender, and he's trying to show his family that he is capable of being a brujo. Right before Halloween, he decides to do a ritual to show that his magic is strong, and he accidentally conjures a ghost. And the ghost ends up being someone that he went to high school with, and end up working together to see who killed him and who is also performing dark magic in their town. It is another book that is so atmospheric and perfect to read for the fall time. I just love Aiden Thomas's writing style. Whenever I think of fantasy romances, I always think of Night Circus. That one was also really popular when I first started watching like booktube videos. Like, I've been talking for a really long time, so those are my main recommendations for fantasy romance books. Again, I don't know if it's the fall time, but there are so many fantasy romances that just feel so atmospheric and are blowing up all over social media. There are 3 that I have on my TBR and I plan on reading this month. I would talk about my TBR and some fantasy books that I want to read because they've been getting a lot of hype recently. The first one is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I've seen this book everywhere, so I checked out the audiobook on my library. Another one is Assistant to the Villain. Again, I've seen this everywhere. I need to read it. And I've also heard a lot of good things about Half a Soul. So if you've read any of those 3 books, let me know what you think. Which one should I start with? Okay, so that is pretty much it. Make sure to check out Crystal's video if you want more recommendations. I will be having Trope Week all week long, so I will have my playlist linked down below if you want to see the other videos I do this week. I have like monster romances planned, vampire romances, werewolf romances. It's just going to be a paranormal themed week. As always, thank you for taking time out of your day to spend time with me. It means the absolute world to me. I hope you guys are all staying happy and healthy, and I will see you in tomorrow's video. Bye!